Could it be, or could it not be, appropriate to ask on just an invisible type of phenomena like level? Like on a level that's not necessarily our visceral, tangible reality within your circumstance of however you ended up, your casual conditionings of life and the conditions of life, and how you're moving through those conditions with preconditioning that's in the body. So on the invisible level, it's like the ocean is like kind of alive in its own sense too. It's like there's like some type of like consciousness behind the ocean, and the ocean is making like, a gravity calibrated in a certain way, because like if the earth is majority water and we have a unique gravity calibration as it is, then wouldn't you think that the water body with underneath the earth, and however it's calibrated with the other elements, wouldn't you think that would give rise to some like stabilization within the gravitational field? Because if the earth is like supposedly majority water, which obviously I think the earth just spans out into space, and the earth is flat. It's a metaphor in saying how the earth spans out in different ways into space, because there's still like areas in the ecosphere. Fire's obviously within the ecosphere. Light is ultimately like reanimated within the particles of the ecosphere, within just and how it kind of repercolates and reblooms. Because it's not that light necessarily travels. It's like on my underground shit, I'm not trying to compare, compete, or even copy on a general level, but like there's a different type of emitting, a reanimating emittance, and how light gets repercolated within different fields of how it gets amplified and is already there. It's just light is a matter of volume, and the volume is like kind of like it's harnessing the light, and it's like kind of leading towards its own energy fog bridge or steam bridge path to like in between densities, in between the fields of density. And so but like I'm just like, one thing I'm just trying to debunk is like how we could possibly recognize how there's a collective misinterpretation of what God is, because it's just if we don't necessarily recognize it, there's a lot of fluff behind how it's used. And the fluff on how God is being used is we're putting our subjective projections on that idea within someone else's idea of a culture, religion, and organization that's not necessarily per se God, but maybe like somehow in a different paradoxical way it is and it isn't, and the way it isn't is by like seeing all the collective subjectivities that are not that, the collective neti, the collective not this, not that, on a different level. And that's what on a neutral level God could be. Because like if we're ultimately searching for God for whatever reason, and we like supposedly found it, then what would that be? What would the relationship with God really be without the fluff of it, So it's like us moving through this one game of quote unquote God, end quote, and however we're feeling, God's making us feel like that. Because on one like genetic tribulation level perspective, it's not that we per se deserve it. That's the cost of living. That's the cost of experiencing this reality, is by like exploring a different part of ourselves, how we could be subject to emotions and feelings to begin with, and and different byproducts of what could happen as a result of different circumstances and interactions and any type of conversation that could occur. There's always some type of like human conditioned emotions and feelings that are resulted for that for whatever reason. That's not bad or good, but that's just like that's the byproduct of the human and how they're just kind of like relating within their water body within their, earth body of their quote unquote supposedly holistic healthy body, end quote. And this is like mature energetics, mind you, because obviously I could like see what I could see how a critic could respond to this. And if you don't check your own biases and levels of ignorance, then it's kind of it's kind of like void, because like my intention is to have different solutions for different purposes. And if your intelligence can't recognize that, then that's where your level of intelligence is at on a neutral level. So that's like, that's a side note, And like, I'm doing this for like, the future balance resonance, of who could actually see what the game of quote unquote God is, end quote. And then you could say, and after, on a deep secret level, the byproduct of the game of like the supposedly one source God, end quote, after that is all the different diverse contexts and the contextualized, diversified different, animations of all the other, quote unquote neutral hierarchy, end quote, of the gods. And I say neutral hierarchy, and on a subconscious level, if we dislike anything without our conscious or unconscious personality getting a hint of it, if the thing that we dislike, if anything, is some type of rigidity, or not necessarily rigidity, but the rigidity itself, and some type of hierarchy, because that example was like self-proven, like people just have like a disdain for like for the after effect is their confusion on how they perceive it, because this is the hard game of Earth. The hard game is the deep dualities and the deep polarities are within the infrastructure where like good stuff could happen or bad stuff could happen, and we're moving through those energy phenomena, and some of us are like not out of balance with that, and we're trying to get like some type of balance as we move to the so-called quote unquote future, end quote, because even in the future there's still going to be different energy polarities of like something of a situation that could be good or bad. That's just life. That's inevitable. That's the Earth plane. Welcome to life. Welcome to planet Earth, where there's a bunch of different just material beings on a neutral level, that are functioning off of a certain type of duality, and that society code is having a different type of significant transition. And I'm just saying the energetic basics of like what duality is, like good or bad could come of anything, good or bad could come of like, but it's how you're like, it's how you're updating your perspective. My battery's running low. Oh, I think I'm at like 10%. I saw it was at 14, 10, so maybe 5. And then, the window screen's here again. So I'm going to close this video. Yeah, what else could God be? So that's like, that's a basic mini podcast for that one. So I'm concerned because the battery is like, the screen's there, so I got to wrap this up, I just got done with like a unique workout, and shout out everyone, like, I guess, going towards some type of balance, respectively. But oh yeah, the main point of this video is like on a secret level, like maybe like God is like making us feel how we feel on like all types of deep levels, and from like a deep neutral perspective, like somehow this is what we paid for, and it's not good, it's not bad, it's just what we paid for as far as being however we landed up within our material specimen to be on this earth. Because obviously like some people are like going like, and shout out to the people who like, officially did like a significant, transition, but like some people are like, that it's like off earth, but like hopefully in like a benevolent way, right? So that's the thing I'm like trying to ground in a different balanced approach within like how everybody has a certain like, I guess a cry for help sometimes, the cry for help of like, could this really be possible? Could we really like, I guess, help Mother Earth for whatever that means, Thank you guys.